With Ticket to Paradise in theaters right now, a lot of us are wondering, are rom-coms dead? Is this the death of the genre in 2022? Well, let's take a look at some rom-coms that came out earlier this year to see if they're alive and well. And stay tuned for my review of Ticket to Paradise because I saw it at a Thursday night screening. The first rom-com of note in 2022 is Marry Me, starring Owen Wilson and Jennifer Lopez. Now, this is your pretty standard rom-com plot of just a schmuck of a guy who starts dating this really rich, beautiful, famous woman, and the society is like, oh, why did you pick him? And then she's like, oh, I like him for his personality. He's like a math teacher who cares about kids, and he has a daughter, and it's the kid from My Spy. She's like in a lot of things nowadays, and I'm glad she's getting work because she's a pretty good child actor. Now, of course, every rom needs a com, and I don't really remember much of the jokes in this movie. I know Sarah Silverman is there as sort of comedic relief. The little girl has some good one-liners, and you'd think Owen Wilson just overall would be funnier, but instead he's more of the grounded straight man character. Overall, it was pretty inoffensive and got the job done for a Valentine's Day rom-com. Then next up, we got the Amazon Prime original I Want You Back, featuring Jenny Slate and Charlie Day. I'm sure a movie with a similar plot already existed before this, but I, for one, haven't seen it. So I'm going to say that this is pretty original. Slate and Day are very charismatic leads, and what I like about this movie that some other rom-coms don't do is usually a rom-com is just following one person. They fall in love with someone, they start dating, then they break up, then they get back together. But instead, with this movie, it follows both characters going through a breakup and them trying to heal from that and better themselves on it, and along the way, they find each other. And the story doesn't really force these two leads to be romantic together. It's more them just growing a friendship and a natural connection based on their healing and their personal journeys. So I really liked that aspect of the movie. Not to mention the great ensemble cast as well, and of course the amazing Suddenly Seymour moment sung by Jenny Slate. I thought that was hilarious. And out of the list I'm going to talk about right now, this is probably one of the funniest. Then we got The Lost City in theaters featuring Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. Now this one is technically a rom-com, but was really more marketed as sort of this action adventure with sort of this love twist in it as well. It had an original story with two great leads that could carry the movie, and overall it was a fun time in the theater, and my mom really liked it, and she's the rom-com expert. She gave it 5 stars, so I consider this movie a success. Next up, we got Moonshot, which you can watch right now on HBO. I guess you can't watch Moonshot anymore, and I will be known as one of the few people who ever got to watch this movie. I even saw the costumes for this movie on the Warner Brothers lot tour. Of course, that was like a month before it would get removed from the streaming service, but it was cool to see. This is featuring Cole Sprouse and Lana Condor as a rom-com sci-fi movie where they are going to the moon, but Cole Sprouse isn't supposed to be on the spaceship he snuck on, and so Lana kind of has to hide him away, and because of that, the two of them maybe start growing some feelings together as she hides the stowaway on a spaceship. The addition of the sci-fi genre, I think, took a story that we were pretty familiar with and added a new twist and really heightened the stakes to the story. I will say the ending was a little bit convoluted for my tastes. A little too many things happened there at the end. But overall, I thought it was a cute little teen romance story. The jokes, I mean, maybe I'm biased because I just like Cole Sprouse, but his jokes certainly hit, and I think both leads were that, teen spirit enough to really be a good movie for the teens. Next, we got the Hulu original The Valet, featuring Samara Weaving and Eugenio Derbez. I hope I said that name right. Apologies if I didn't. This is a remake of a French movie that came out in like 2005, 2008, I think. Basically, it's a very similar story to Marry Me, to where basically this nobody of a man gets involved with this high celebrity woman, and the two of them start dating. But I think the way that these two came together in this story was a lot more clever than in Marry Me. I like this because it's very subversive of the rom-com tropes and really treats the whole thing more as a friendship and the two of these characters just getting to know each other better more than just a romance. I thought the jokes in this landed too. Max Greenfield kind of plays like the villain character, and he's hilarious as always. And overall, I just thought this was a fun, very subversive take on the rom-com genre. And again, I'm just biased for Samara Weaving. I will support anything she does. And of course, the one you've all been waiting for, Bros. Now, of course, I have to ask myself, as a straight person, am I the right person to be sort of critiquing this kind of movie? And I think the answer is maybe, because Billy Eichner really made it a point that this is for general audiences, gay or straight. He wants you to come see this movie, and he wrote it to try at least have a universal appeal to it. So I'm going to say that I am not like the most specific target audience, but I am within the general audience that Billy wanted to see this movie. So I'm going to talk about it. Starting with the comedy, I did get a few chuckles out of me, and I was there by myself, and the only other people in the theater were a straight couple sitting a few rows in front of me, and they were laughing quite a bit throughout it, so they seemed to enjoy it. My main problem with the humor is that it's very culturally relevant and will be dated very fast. So not a lot of the comedy comes from the situation that the characters are in, but more of the comedy comes from, they mentioned Dear Evan Hansen. Isn't that funny? I did laugh at the Dear Evan Hansen joke, though, so. Because I've seen pretty mixed reviews from people about this movie, and really all it comes down to is if you like Billy Eichner and think that he can be the lead character of a 2-hour-long movie, because Billy's character is specifically written to be annoying, and so if you can kind of withstand that, then I think you're in the clear. But if you really don't like his sense of humor or his kind of personality, then I don't think you will like this movie as much. At the end of the day, I did enjoy it enough because the romance between the two leads were very sweet. They had good chemistry. And will I revisit this movie ever again? Probably not. But, you know, I didn't see it as a total waste. And of course, there's so many other rom-coms that I didn't mention, like Hulu's Fire Island, Peacock's Meet Cute, and basically every movie released on Netflix, because boy, oh boy, do they release like 3 movies a week, and I'm just not going to catch up with that. Now let's take a look at the box office numbers of these rom-coms that I just mentioned, only 3 of which actually came out in theaters, and their box office numbers really vary. So I think this is pretty interesting, so let's talk about it. Marry Me made $22.4 million, The Lost City made $105.3 million, and as of recording this, Bros has made $10.8 million. And all of this is according to boxofficemojo.com, and I am using domestic numbers, the money they made in the United States, because it's kind of unfair, because Bros didn't get it, as of right now, an international release, and if it did, then a lot of countries will not be playing it because it's gay. So if you take these numbers and look at the box office average of the movies that came out in 2022, which is 14.7 million, you can sort of see where these movies stand. That being, Marry Me did a pretty decent job. It's standard, made its money. It was Valentine's Day weekend. Around that time, people are kind of looking for rom-coms. I think it sort of hit its target audience. The Lost City, however, that's the big story, $105 million. I think this is just because the more appeal of an action-adventure movie gets more people in who wouldn't really be interested in just a standard rom-com. Of course, you know, it has some star power behind it with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. I saw a lot of advertising for this movie, so that could have been another part as well. And really no other movies were in theaters around that time, so it was basically like one of the only things you could see unless you wanted to see like The Batman for like the 3rd time. So I think this really hit at the right time it needed to and made a lot of money, and specifically utilizing its action-adventure genre as well. And then the story we've all been kind of following recently is Bros and how it really underperformed. Now, the big question surrounding around Bros is that do we blame the straight audiences just for, you know, being homophobic and not wanting to see a gay rom-com, or the queer community didn't show up enough and they should have supported a gay movie? It really, at the end of the day, it just comes down to, I don't think Right now, in the month of October, people are really looking to watch rom-coms right now. I just think it sort of came on the heels of summer blockbuster season, and now not many people just want to go to a theater to watch two people talk to each other and then fall in love. There's not much spectacle to this movie that people want to go out and watch, which I think The Lost City excelled at because The Lost City had so much spectacle behind it. There's, chase scenes and guns and helicopters and motorcycles. It's like, yeah, you want to see that on the big screen. And I think the main thing about all rom-coms right now is if it's just two characters just kind of talking and falling in love, a lot of people will not need to see that on a big screen or feel like they won't need to see it. And you can get the same effect watching it as you would on your TV or on your phone or on your laptop, as opposed to getting the same effect of watching a superhero movie or like some big action adventure movie on a big screen is much different than watching it on a small little computer screen. So does this mean the death of rom-coms? I don't really think so. I just think we're sort of seeing rom-coms slide over to the streaming side primarily, and because studios kind of know that based on the past like decade or so, that if you put a rom-com in a theater, it can be really risky financially. And to make a rom-com to put on streaming that people can watch in the comfort of their own homes, sometimes rom-coms are skewed more towards an older audience, to where an older audience doesn't want to go out to a theater. They want to stay in the comfort of their own home. So I think just financially, it does make sense for studios to put their rom-com movies on streaming services. Although I do think it is a little sad that we won't get as many rom-coms in theaters, because I just like seeing movies in theaters, basically. That being said, I'm very curious to see how well Ticket to Paradise does at the box office. Does George Clooney and Julia Roberts have the star power to really bring home the money? I guess only time will tell with that. In 2022, we had some very solid rom-coms, so I don't think the quality is going anywhere. It's just where we watch them might be changing. That being said, I wonder if Ticket to Paradise is any good. Here's future me with my review. So I'm in my car after watching Ticket to Paradise, and I really liked it. It felt just so classic to me. I just know my mom's gonna love it, and I think that's the metric of how good this movie is. It's nothing like earth-shattering, like revolutionarily, like you have to go see this, it's 10 out of 10 amazing, but it's like, it's just some of these things we don't get to see anymore these days, just these classic rom-coms on the big screen. And I think people should go out and support this movie. And there were like bloopers at the end, which like no movie has ever done that in like the last 10 years. So that just speaks just to how like the classic vibe it was. Like this could have like come out like in the 90s or 80s. Like it just felt so right. And like none of the jokes were like dated. Like none of them were pop culture references. They were all just about the situation that they're in. And George Clooney was so funny, Julia Roberts so funny. Like I think people are gonna have a blast with this one, for all my rom-com fans out there. So it's a recommendation from me. Maybe I'm hyping it up too much. Maybe it's just recency bias because it was literally, I just finished watching it 10 seconds ago. But yeah, I liked it a lot. Thanks, future me. I hope you enjoyed the movie. Now, for you guys watching at home, go ahead and support the rom-coms you want to see in theaters, or just watch the ones you want to see on streaming. Let me know your thoughts on any of the movies I mentioned today. And of course, if rom-coms aren't your speed, I got lots more videos on this channel talking about lots of other different movies. So go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.